It's time for business, and Marcus Carlson is here.
Yes, indeed, Melissa. We're going to start with Brussels as we're watching whether EU leaders will turn up the heat on Russia, and if so, how they will do it. European Union leaders, they're talking about their response to Russia's annexation of Crimea, of course. There are reports that leaders will expand a list of individuals subjected to asset freezes and travel bans. It follows a decision on Monday to impose sanctions on 21 Russian and Crimean officials. European companies that do business in Russia will also be watching closely if leaders open the door to more sweeping economic sanctions further down the line. Let's listen in to the French President, François Hollande.
Pressure is necessary if there is to be discussion and negotiation. And that is why economic sanctions, even if they are not decided today, need to be considered, need to be in any case prepared.
Voire de demain, ce doit être des sanctions individuelles qui doivent être prononcées. Merci.
Now, US President Barack Obama has already outlined a number of additional American measures against Russia. Speaking earlier in Washington, he said the US would expand its list of individuals subjected to asset freezes and travel bans. The extra names include officials that are seen to be close to Russia's President Putin. The former defense minister and Putin's current chief of staff, Sergei Ivanov, is one of them. Now, all in all, another 20 names are being added to the US list on top of the 11 already on it. The US is also sanctioning Banca Russia, with a senior US official saying it'll be frozen out of the dollar. Barack Obama has also authorized wider economic sanctions that include the energy and mining sectors, but it is important to note that the US isn't applying those wider sanctions just yet. Now, some developing news this hour. Credit ratings agency Standard & Poor's has revised Russia's outlook from stable to negative. Standard & Poor's is quoting rising geopolitical and economic risks. Now, this revised outlook basically means that Standard & Poor's is warning that it could take action to downgrade Russia's credit rating. The credit rating itself, though, by S&P, it remains at BBB. This is Russia's credit rating by Standard & Poor's I'm talking about. Now, we're going to go back to Brussels. One deal that's already been wrapped up there clears the way for a European banking union. After marathon talks, European ministers and the European Parliament have now agreed on how to wind up failing banks. Mark Thompson has more.
After months of negotiations, a breakthrough. The European Union has agreed a deal with national governments on how to wind up failing Eurozone banks.
I am absolutely convinced that this reform of the banking union is a revolution for the European banking sector, and it's probably the most significant reform for us, Europeans, since the creation of the euro.
The European Parliament touted the deal on a single resolution mechanism as a victory. This as governments agreed to let a rescue fund grow to 55 billion euros over the next 8 years, as opposed to 10. There was also squabbling over who would decide which troubled banks should be closed. Both parties eventually agreed on letting the ECB act as a watchdog in that role. It's seen as the final block to building a European banking union. Leaders want to prevent future crises from bankrupting Eurozone member states. The SRM will be responsible for either closing down or restructuring the 130 biggest Eurozone banks should they run into trouble. But the system already has its critics. The ECB watchdog says the rescue fund is still too small and would be spent too quickly. There are also concerns that only the biggest institutions would be covered when some of the smaller and middle-sized banks can also cause damage.
OK, we're going to have a quick look at the stock markets next. And over in the United States, we're seeing stocks trading to the upside after some upbeat economic data, including on jobless claims over in the US last week. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up 0.7%. In Europe earlier, the indices closed more mixed, with the London FTSE losing some ground, whereas the CAC 40 and the Frankfurt DAX were up. We are seeing some creeping concerns once again coming in when it comes to the Ukraine crisis, as investors are looking at that crisis closely. We're going to take a look at some other news now when it comes to corporate news. French luxury still sells like hotcakes, at least if it says HERMES on the box. The French luxury goods group has posted record profits as its sales of bags and scarves show little sign of slowing down. HERMES made 790 million euros during 2013, 7% more than in 2012. Unlike some other luxury companies, HERMES says it's not noticing a slowdown in China. And while HERMES is powering ahead, British luxury goods group MULBERRY is struggling. Frenchman GUILLON has stepped down as the chief executive of that brand. His 2-year tenure was marked by 3 major profit warnings. MULBERRY has been trying to go more upmarket by hiking prices and improving quality, but that bet is yet to pay off. Okay, that is the business news for now, and it's back to you, Melissa.
Thank you very much indeed, Marcus. It is 15